You're tuned into Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for the most honest, inspiring insight and opinion on the world of sports. Now, once again, here's the man of the hour, After Hours. Your host, KJ Green.
Once again, you are back in the Hoodwood. And, okay, I'm just going to say it right now. Cap fans, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I'm just going to say right now, I didn't believe in you. Now, I was glad when the Caps beat the Jackets. Sorry about that. I was glad when they shut up John Tortorella, a coach I cannot stand, and knocked Columbus out of the playoffs, keeping them again playoff winless. I will rub that fact into Columbus until they win 11 Stanley Cups, which will be probably long after I'm gone from this world. But anyway, the Caps then had to face the Penguins, their usual playoff demon. They knocked them off in 6 games. And I wrote the Caps off against the Pens. I mean, come on. The Pens get the Caps every time. But I really wrote them off after they squandered a 2-0 advantage against Tampa in the East Finals. They won 2 games in Tampa. You're thinking the Caps are going home up 2-0? Oh, my goodness. Are we thinking the impossible? Can the Caps actually get it done? Now, come on, we're talking about the Caps here. They will find a way to mess it up. They lost both games in the Verizon Center. Lost both games badly. Went back to Tampa. Tampa's up. Well, they've got the momentum. They're up 3. The series is now tied. They've got the home ice advantage. And they win game 5, 3-2. But 33 seconds into the second period, Tampa Bay Lightning, Ryan Callahan scored to give the Lightning a 3-2 lead. Little did anybody know that will be the last goal that the Tampa Bay Lightning would score in the series. The Caps rallied. They lost Game 5 3-2, but they took some momentum into Game 6. They won that game 3-0 in front of an absolutely electric crowd in Washington. But you're thinking, Game 7, Tampa is very good in Game 7s. Washington is notoriously bad in Game 7s. Forget about it. The Lightning are going to win. Did I say the Lightning were going to win? Really? Braden Holtby has been absolutely magnificent for the Caps. He has not allowed a goal in almost 8 periods of play. Game 7, 4-0 shutout Caps. They're going to their first Stanley Cup final in 20 years. Now, let's just make sure we get this right. The Capitals, the Washington Capitals, notorious playoff collapsers, are going to their first Stanley Cup in 20 years. The last time they were in the Stanley Cup, they lost to my beloved Red Wings in a 4-game sweep, when the Caps were just happy to be there. Now, facing Vegas, a team, dare I say it lest I jinx them, I think that they can beat. Now, Vegas has an absolute veteran goalie in Marc-Andre Fleury, who has won a couple of Stanley Cups in his own accord. Hot goalies win cups. But for some reason, you gotta love these Caps. Plucky underdogs all the way. I mean, the long-beleaguered Alex Ovechkin, whom I've personally railed on for years as being soft, has been the kind of leader the Caps have always wanted him to be. And the Caps are riding his and Holtby's play to the Cup. Now, this is the first time that 2 teams are facing off for their first Stanley Cup since 2007, when Anaheim and Ottawa played, and Anaheim won its first Cup. Now, the curse of the Habs remains in effect. It has been 25 years since a Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup. 25 years! Princess Katie is 22 in October. Think about it. She's never seen a Canadian-based team win a Stanley Cup. 25 years. The last time a Canadian-based team even made the Stanley Cup Final was 2011. The curse of the Habs lives on. Now, I know that these statements will more than likely get me refusal of entry to Canada anytime soon, so it was a fact that just needed to be bared out. Okay, now that I've been silly enough for this evening, I'm going to get a little bit serious. Now, the NFL is screwing up, as usual. And you would think the NFL, as much money as they're making hand over fist, that they would be able to stay out of their own way. No. They're going to redo the kickoffs. And I think all the regulation of safety and hitting is amusing, because I remember when the NFL used to have videos called Crunch Course and the hardest hitters. And they did a whole part of this particular video on Dick Butkus. The socket to him, grinding, hitting, and Lawrence Taylor, who was in the 80s was one of the most feared defensive players in the game. But stuff like this is no more. They've gone the way of the dodo. Remember the old ESPN segment called Jacked Up that had all the great hits? You don't see that anymore. The NFL is trying to regulate hits out of the game. Now, don't get me wrong. Player safety element, not leading with the head, that's stuff that needed to be incorporated in the game. You don't want to see somebody break their neck. Lord help us if someone dies on the field from a head collision. We never want to see that. As a kid, I remember Darryl Stingley, the wide receiver of the Patriots, being paralyzed from the neck down on a hit. Stuff like that you don't want to see. But the problem I have is with the kickoffs. Terms like setup zone, restraining area they're gonna make touchbacks the norm, except rather than the exception. And kickoff returns, cats like Dante Hall, who electrified crowds with his return ability, it's gonna be gone. And also, what's going to be done about onside kicks with this whole restraining area? These are stuff that the NFL really didn't address. And when it comes up, it's going to come up to the toothless NFL competition committee. They'll just rubber stamp it, and these weak kickoffs will be regulated into non-existence. Now we come to the matter of the national anthem. As a black man, I have, understandably, no real love for the police. I know they have a real tough job. And there are a host of good cops that are patrolling the beats in cities all across this land. I have friends that are cops. I have good friends that are cops. The problem I have is that police brutality does happen. And when Colin Kaepernick bravely took a knee to do a silent protest, the message got lost when these super patriots, if you will, jumped out and said, "You're disrespecting the anthem. You're disrespecting our flag," when it was nothing of the sort. Colin Kaepernick himself was encouraged to kneel by a Green Beret. Colin Kaepernick started the kneeling process, and there were a host of other players that knelt on every team. The owners didn't like that, of course not. Oh, the inmates are running the prison. That's what Houston owner Bob McNair said. The players aren't prisoners. The players are players. And people have said to me, "Oh well, you've got these are workers. Are you going to be allowed to protest at your job?" I'm not going to protest at my day job because no one cares what an IT guy has to say about police brutality. Someone that's protesting at an NFL game, you've got 65, 70,000 people that are there. You're sending a message. You're not going out and saying something, walking around with a sign. You're kneeling in quiet reflection, saying a prayer, saying something, for quiet reflection. You're just there. When I'm at basketball games, football games, whatever, the anthem comes up, I take my hat off and bow my head. I say a silent prayer, praying for the players' safety, praying for our country. That's how I do it. If anybody has a problem with it, they say something to me, they're going to get a fat lip. And I don't really care if somebody doesn't like that I'm not looking at the flag or singing along. I bow my head, chin to chest, close my eyes, and I say a quiet reflection. That's the way I do it. The NFL is trying to regulate freedom of expression, freedom of speech out by saying if a player kneels before a game during the anthem, their team's going to be subject to a fine that they're going to invariably pass along to the player. President Donald Trump echoing, they're doing the right thing. He was damn near crowing about it. And I still think Donald Trump bullied the NFL, bullied Commissioner Roger Goodell. And I've said it before, I've said it right here on this forum. Donald Trump wants a pound of flesh, payback, because he didn't get to be an owner. That was the thing he always wanted to be. He had said in a Thursday appearance in Fox News, quote, I think that's good. I don't think people should be staying in locker rooms, but I still think it's good. You have to stand proudly for the national anthem or you shouldn't be playing. What kind of mess is that? You shouldn't be playing because you're not standing for the national anthem. So a person wants to kneel and pray for their own safety, for the safety of their teammates, opponents. Something's wrong with that. Maybe you shouldn't be in the country. Reactionary mentality like that hurts the game. It hurts free speech. We are not in a dictatorship. We're in a free country. Things like that, statements like that, policies like that will hurt the game. Kneeling didn't hurt the game. All kneeling did was open up to protest. Open up the protest of what was going on. Reactionary views hijacked that into something that they think was disrespectful. And the NFL ran wild with it. And they screwed up. Big time. We'll be back with Fat Dap Head Slap and a final word from the Wood in just a moment.